Welcome to what would be a filler video. Now the reason why I'm doing a video like this is because I haven't had enough time to finish the other videos that I'm working on. So this gives me a couple of extra days to really hunker down and figure out what I'm doing with those videos before I release them. So it gives me more time to work on them, the more serious ones with scripts. So this video, no script, not much editing, just something I can kind of pump out pretty easily. It's obviously going to be lackluster, but instead I want to fill it with a bit of information and talk for a bit and just make it relaxing, question mark. The first thing that I do want to get out of the way is Attack on Titan chapter 129. It is officially delayed till next month, obviously because of what is going on in the globe at the moment, which is a very severe and serious situation. Everyone should be very open-minded and considerate of the other people surrounding them regarding the situation. So obviously you can't help if you have to go out and you have to pay bills. A lot of people don't have that luxury, and it's a difficult situation for the globe. Definitely be safe out there, keep clean, and try to avoid contact with people if possible, right? Do your best. Now that PSA is out of the way, this has obviously affected a lot of magazine companies in Japan. They don't want to publish within the market, within the community, so Attack on Titan has officially been delayed. Now we don't know when the chapter could actually leak or come out specifically. What I mean by that is the chapter itself has been postponed for an official release the following month, but we don't know if we're going to get leaks or spoilers or if the whole chapter is already out there and is just waiting to be released. That's what we don't know. So the best scenario or outcome is that we get a chapter in the following days, like we normally would. The weird scenario is that we get a chapter somewhere randomly within the month, and the normal scenario would be we get it next month, or 1 month from now. Whenever you watch this video, it would be around about this time. So that would be its normal schedule. I think just have that open mind with pretty much any series that you're reading, that you're caught up to, and that is releasing chapters. This situation and stuff like this could happen anytime throughout the year at this point. Magazine companies don't want to release and they want to postpone chapters because of how severe situations could be in those certain areas, and it kind of depends. Everyone is somewhat just playing it by ear at this point and just waiting to see what happens, and if they can do this and if they can't do this, will it get worse, will it get better? We don't inherently know, so keep an open mind with these chapters. Attack on Titan is obviously a little bit more severe in that sense because you have to wait a whole month and no one really wants to wait 2 months, but as long as the authors are healthy and people are safe, they decide not to publish to keep people safe, then most definitely I think that's obviously a better option to take. I'll keep my eyes out and let people know if any spoilers do drop for Attack on Titan, or if there's rumors floating around that the chapter may actually release in the following days. If you don't hear anything, then it's most likely the chapter will drop the following month with the official release date. Simple as that, really. The next thing I want to talk about is something that I've been extremely excited for, but have pretty much kept my mouth shut for quite a bit of time. It's not really a surprise or anything like that, but for a lot of people, you may be unaware of it. Sue Yoshida, the creator of Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Ghoul Re, respectfully, obviously, is starting his new work. And it's not a game, it's not artwork for Jack Jean or a continuation for it or anything along those lines. It's a legitimate manga. Now for this process, he actually created a new Twitter, which I will put on screen and you can follow if you like. This means he obviously has 2 Twitter accounts, but this one is supposedly specifically for his new manga. Now, he's in the very early stages of developing it. He hasn't really shared all too much about it, but he created this new Twitter to show the process of creating a new manga and characters and scenes and paneling and all this artwork related stuff. He's even given some insight on his thought process behind what he wants potentially his new series to be or how long it is. So at the moment, he's currently looking at 15 volumes, but we don't know if it's a weekly limit or if it's a monthly limit, which would obviously determine how many chapters that is. If it's a weekly series, it could be anywhere between 140 to 180 chapters. Kind of depends with how they volume it. It's usually around 10 chapters for a weekly series within a volume. If it's a monthly series, which a lot of us kind of want that for him, but obviously it's depending on how he feels about it, that could be anywhere between 70 and 100, depending on the size of the chapters, and I'm pretty sure monthly series have around 4 to 5, sometimes even less, I'm not entirely sure. even with this, the idea that he's coming back so soon and really wanting to pursue a new manga and seems very open and serious about it is very interesting. I don't think it's going to be anything related to Tokyo Ghoul or Tokyo Ghoul Re or even placed in that same universe. He seems like he's completely focused on what he's doing now. He's trying to learn new things and understand different point of views and perspectives and ideas, and really just ballparking and playing around with different concepts and how they interchange with one another. So I think once he gets a decent groundwork for what he wants and how he wants to approach it, you'll see a lot more artwork on his Twitter, and then eventually that will lead up to the release of his manga in chapter 1. I'd assume at this point, just with his relations with Weekly Young Jump, which is where Tokyo Ghoul was published, that he most likely will go back to a weekly series, but you never know. This is a pretty big thing. Obviously a lot of people are excited. No one expected him to come back so soon, let alone at all, especially with the letters he produced within interviews and what he told people after he finished Tokyo Ghoul Re. As much as he loves and adores manga, or at least drawing, I should say, because of how much he talks about it on Twitter, it seemed like he was so burnt out with manga and it was extremely unhealthy, but there was definitely some good points and things he absolutely loved and adored within, working within that industry. So it was kind of weird. It came off more like he would never come back or that he would never do a long-running series again, but then he says he would love to do a 15-volume series, which is pretty interesting to kind of have that mindset, even though he's working a new story. So it seems like he wants something to be pretty long-running, which would be great. And he seems very enthusiastic about it, which makes me excited. I don't think I'll do regular updates. Maybe if he reveals a name, or maybe more about his story, if he releases some prominent artwork or specific official artwork. But at this point, it's all the construction work. It's all the ground floor. It's all building and showcasing it to his fans on Twitter. So I would recommend following him or creating a Twitter to follow him, so you can potentially see some of the steps that he takes and how his mind works, because he's very open on Twitter. He replies to a lot of people and it's just an interesting thing to witness. You don't get that a lot with authors, but I think over the recent years, a lot of mangaka have been very open on Twitter, and you play a dangerous game like that because of the backlash you can get and the amount of negative feedback you can witness, but a lot of them have been very open and vocal, which is pretty amazing to see. His Twitter will be on screen once again if you want to go follow it. So will his main one, and I'll even throw in mine in there too if you want to follow me. Feel free. But like I said, unless there's some more big information regarding Soei Ishida's new manga, I won't update it on a regular basis. I'm definitely excited for it though, and would love to cover it depending on whenever he releases it and whatever it's going to be. So now with those two things out of the way, the last thing we're going to do is answer some questions, because a lot of people have some questions and I am obliged to answer them. Since you'll be talking about AOT and Soei Ishida, this question came to mind. From Attack on Titan, NTG, which character resonates mentally with you the most? I think the most simplistic answer would be Kaneki specifically, but not his, I guess, entirety of a mindset, just certain bits and pieces. And I think it's because of how authentic and real Kaneki's mindset feels, but the beauty of his character relies on the fact that you relate to different aspects of his mentality and how he approaches things over time. There's definitely certain things within Kaneki's mentality that I relate to personally, and more so how he responds to those certain situations. So yeah, I would say Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul, which is a pretty cliche answer to be honest. How do you deal with frustration as a creator, like a burnout? I feel that sometimes I relate to you because you want your work to be polished and you really put your heart in your work. And I keep on having this frustration and burnout as an artist. I want to discipline myself, but I don't know how to cope up with this. Thank you for making amazing videos. Your content is amazing and soulful. Thank you very much. How do I deal with a burnout or frustration? I think it is 100% different between people, especially like the level of burnout. So dealing with it is going to be completely different. I can imagine the level of burnout and even the consistency of a burnout for an artist, like specifically an artist, would be 10 times higher than what I experience, because you are constantly creating new things within artwork. And if you're doing it as a job, or even as a hobby, it can get tiring because you're constantly trying to be creative and think of these new and engaging things, but your biggest detriment is yourself because you over critique your own work, and this could be better, that could be better, I could be doing this a lot cleaner. And you see that, I think, a lot more visually as an artist. Like that's what I would imagine artists go through on a daily basis. Like, oh, this looks ugly, but in reality it looks like God's right hand just came upon them and graced the paper with ink. So for me personally, taking a step back and reevaluating myself, the time that I've spent on whatever work that I'm doing, and one thing that's really come to me recently is valuing simplicity and noticing simplicity. I'm not a person to value simplicity just because I think it's like a cop-out, or I could be doing so much more with this edit or with this visualization or something. But sometimes what hits the hardest or looks the best or is more emotional is the simplicity of it. Just letting an animation ride out or a clip play along and just have that for 10 seconds, 20 seconds instead of making it cluttered and over edited with stuff. So I tend to do that a lot now. When I feel myself getting to a point where I'm frustrated, I sit back and I realize I should value these simplistic moments more. I should have more simplistic moments, and I should be okay with that. There's a lot of ways to deal with it. That doesn't always work for me. You know what I mean? Even just valuing it doesn't always work for me. So sometimes I get to that point where I'm just like, I'm over this. I need a day off. I need to cool off for a couple of hours. Sometimes it just gets to that point where I don't want to do this anymore. I need to stop working on this, or it's just going to get me more frustrated or whatever it may be, and take a day off or maybe a couple of hours just to reset myself and put myself back in that mindset. So I think the worst thing you could do is forcing yourself to work, because you just get deeper and deeper into it and it takes more time to recover and you get pretty much nowhere. So take your time with it. Take a break, take a breather. It's perfectly okay to do that. It's okay to think that something is not as pretty as you want it or not as good as you want it, but be happy with that result and don't try and change it or one up it or think you can do better. Try to do it better next time. Try to improve upon it in minuscule types of ways where it's not as effective. And when I adapt that to my own mindset, it's a lot harder to put in motion and make it practical, yes, but it slowly works. So I don't know, hopefully something within there may help. If not, I wish you the best of luck, and I'm sure your artwork and everything you're doing is great. So keep up the good work. Will you ever do a face reveal? I'm not against the idea, I just don't generally see the point. My content is more fitted and suited with my face out of it entirely, so I don't know. What gets you out of that creative slump or those days of being unmotivated to do anything? Love your content, bro. You have personally given me insights into characters that I could never have done on my own. Thank you very much. I think same thing as before, just taking some time off, just reevaluating my stuff, and if I'm unmotivated, slowly build up that motivation and want to continue what I'm doing. If I feel myself being in a creative slump or unmotivated, which I find myself very regularly in that position, I tend to stress about a lot of things and I need to relax, bring myself back down to earth and stop overthinking things, which is easier said than done, yes, and a lot of times that can spiral out of control and put you in even worse situations. So I just try and take it one step at a time. Hopefully it works out. Are you satisfied with the way your channel is going, and what direction do you see it going towards? Yes, I'm satisfied with the content. I'm happy with where my content is now. I can always be more satisfied with more views and more subs, obviously, but that comes with time. I don't expect thousands or hundreds of thousands of subs to come flooding in, or I don't expect hundreds of thousands or millions of views for the content I make. But what I do feel is that I'm happy with my content getting 1 million views. If it ever were to get 1 million views, or 500,000 views, or 100,000 views. Right? I'm happy for my content to be viewed by that many people. If you asked me that same question a year ago, I probably wouldn't be, because I wasn't happy with my content back then, and I would hate for, the potential or possibility of 1 million people seeing it. I would hate that. I would despise that. I would not want 1 million people to see it. Now, however, I'm pretty happy with my content, and hopefully over time views start picking up and people see my channel as not just a Tokyo Ghoul channel or Attack on Titan channel, but more of a creative outlook that can talk about pretty much anything, hopefully. So it all comes with time. I'm not necessarily worried about views or anything like that. As long as I keep producing the content that I produce and growing and evolving, I see myself going a lot further than just doing Tokyo Ghoul over and over again, or even just Attack on Titan. I'm happy with where my channel is. During quarantine, I have been reading One Piece and watching Legend of the Galactic Heroes, using this time to tackle any longer series. Not longer series, but just series in general. I've been reading a lot more, I've been researching a lot more, and just reading stuff that I feel like I want to make a video on, or at least talk about in the future. So stuff that's interesting to me. That's opened up a lot of different avenues for series that I probably wouldn't ever touch or even read, but because I want to make a video on them, or because I want to talk about them specifically, then I have been reading them, and it's kind of been enjoyable. So yeah, I guess so. Do you play any video games at all? I imagine you as someone who would play a lot of indie games. Also, do you have a favorite anime opening? Video games? Of course. I absolutely adore video games, more so story driven, but you know, I do play multiplayer here and there, and it's pretty much just how I'm feeling. Currently at the moment, there is no game that I'm really interested in. I was playing Apex Legends for a bit, but that has just lost all of my interest for the longest of time because of the infrequent updates and just the game not really fixing itself, and I'm just generally not enjoying it as much, considering I've been playing it since it launched day one. So that would have been the only multiplayer game I'm playing. Not playing that anymore, so I decided to go back and play some single player games. I'm currently playing Metro Exodus, which is beautiful. I love the Metro series. I think the atmosphere is gorgeous, and Exodus is just as great as what I heard people were hyping it up to be. So when it comes to indie games, I'm kind of hit or miss. A lot of indie games are really good, don't get me wrong, visually, artistically, and even story-wise, but sometimes they're very hard to come by, or sometimes they're very niche in my opinion. Sometimes you get a really good one, and then equally get a really bad one. So I really enjoy Ori and Celeste for more so the indie side of games because of their story and what they push to tell. Regarding favorite anime openings, yeah, obviously the Tokyo Ghoul one's iconic, the old school like One Piece and Naruto ones are iconic, Bleach, etc, Hunter x Hunter. I don't think I have any favorite ones. Like Parasite the Maximum is probably my favorite actually. Do you like pizza and favorite topping? I don't eat pizza that much, but I do like pizza. Pepperoni, pretty simple, plain and simple, nothing crazy, just pepperoni pizza. That's it. How are you holding up during the quarantine? Pretty easy. We are generally pretty lucky here in Australia, especially with my town being rather small and especially on the beach. Pretty good, to be honest. How do you feel about a full rumbling end? How do you feel about the relative peace ending? Hit or miss? It all depends on how Isayama wants to handle it. I'm happy with either one, to be completely honest. I have my opinion on where I think the story may go, but it could literally go anywhere. So full rumbling end, peaceful ending. I have faith that Isayama would do either ending justice and probably tear the community in two, but I have my faith and I think he could do pretty good work with both and make them interesting and not simplistic or predictable like a lot of people I think expect. What's your top 5 favorite manga? I don't really have like a top 5, they're not numbered or numerical, they're kind of just my favorite manga, they're not in any order. So I think off the top of my head, Monster, Oyasumi Punpun, A Trail of Blood, Holy Land and Berserk maybe, Kingdom, that's like 6. Yeah, there's a lot more in there, but those are like the ones that come to mind that are really impactful for me. You resting enough? No, definitely not. I'm working on it. Who is your favorite character in AOT? Love your vids, keep up the great work. Thank you. Favorite character in Attack on Titan? Probably simple answer, Reiner or Eren. I do like Zeke as well. It's probably out of those 3 to be completely honest. I'm more so leaning towards Reiner. I just love how his character's portrayed and like his mental hurdles. But obviously with everything that Eren's gone through, it's tragic but beautiful. And it's probably between those 2. I just have a soft spot for Zeke. He's like a counterweight for Eren and everyone else, so. And the last question, what do you think the new work of Shueisha Ishida will be? What's the anime/manga that you are super hooked on right now? And question number 3, are you gonna make a vid about Summertime Rendering, or if you didn't even know about it, I recommend it, check it out. I don't know what Summertime Rendering is. I've had a massive amount of people recommend me that, so I may check it out. Anime manga that I'm hooked on, Hell's Paradise, Chainsaw Man, and Jujutsu Kaisen are the 3 that I'm absolutely hooked on and reading weekly. And A Trail of Blood every month, but I kind of like letting those stack because reading them is super quick and easy, but they're so atmospheric and you can't even tell when the chapters break if you read like a handful at a time. And what do you think the new work of Shueisha Ishida will be? I have no idea. It could be something extremely dark and tragic, it could be something bright and bubbly, most likely going to be a weekly series, but I'm kind of hoping it's a monthly series. I have no clue. But I'm positive it's going to be something enjoyable and great and people are going to be excited for it. With that said, that pretty much wraps up the filler video. I apologize for it being longer than I originally expected it to be, but answering some questions, cut it up so it's a little bit shorter. Hopefully it's not obnoxiously long, but fills in the gap for my next video, which I'm not going to let you know what it is just yet, but I hope you all enjoyed. I want to thank you for sticking around if you made it this far. Let me know how you feel about the thumbnail too. I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm trying to get a little bit more atmospheric, a little bit more identifiable with my thumbnails, so we'll see. Probably hate the thumbnail, love it. I had an idea behind the thumbnail, alright? I didn't expect people to question it or even understand it that profusely, but I mean, hey, let me know. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate all the amazing support. I will see you guys in the following days when I start teasing my new video, but be safe, drink plenty of water. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.